It was late evening as Jeremy turned into the home stretch. The evening sun glanced through the fresh green branches of the trees lining the footpath. A gentle breeze rustled through the cherry blossoms, showering him with softly falling petals. As spring came into his step, he looked forward to seeing Mrs. Wattle and regaling her with tales of his travels. Besides, wasn't he awash with cash and could pay his way for a change?
America's only Irish station, Radio Irish. That's what you're listening to, with an excerpt there from the highly entertaining novel Foolish Notions by Dublin writer Billy Byrne, narrating that passage there from chapter 20 of this rollicking city streets tale centred around character Jeremy Brightside. And we're delighted to be chatting with author Billy Byrne. How are you, Billy?
Very well, Sean.
Well, your novel Foolish Notions, Billy, which I have enjoyed reading several times, and tremendously so each time, centres around main character 35-year-old Jeremy Brightside, a frustrated actor who decides to give his career a boost and carry his performances to a wider audience. Talk us through the story, Billy. What does Brightside do next?
Well, he decides to do everything. In other words, be an actor, be a scriptwriter, be a producer, be a director. He's going to be the whole goddamn caboodle. And he decides that he will play in some of the biggest theatres in the world in front of very sophisticated audiences, because the theatres will be operating theatres, and the audiences will be doctors and nurses and medical people generally. So he writes his first part, Quincy Sano, and plays the part of a madman, or as he decides, a schizophrenic. Now, whether he's successful or not, he thinks he's a great success, but in fact he finishes up practically in jail as a consequence.
Now, dressed in Elizabethan costume, Brightside accosts a policeman, which leads him to the courts where he continues his act. Then he takes on the medical profession, hoodwinking doctors in a series of guises and mimicking medical conditions. Indeed, as a writer, you use the light-hearted and often hilarious antics of Jeremy Brightside to illustrate the nature of Munchausen's syndrome, which stands at the very heart of the novel Foolish Notions. Tell me, what is Munchausen syndrome?
Munchausen syndrome is a psychiatric condition which was given to a condition where people make up very fantastic stories about themselves, about being heroes in battle and being great intellects, rather like Walter Mitty, Turber's Walter Mitty, except there was a real Baron von Munchausen who lived in the 18th century in Germany, fought with the Russians against the Turks, and did all kinds of marvellous things, and was a ferocious liar. He used to go to the pub every night, and as long as people listened to him, to his outlandish stories, he'd buy them drink. Now, it turned out a psychiatrist called Asher in the 1950s labelled people who were inclined to make up fantastic stories about themselves and travelled from hospital to hospital and submit themselves to all kinds of operations. He decided to use the label the Munchausen syndrome.
Well, in 1794, an unknown German, one Rudolf Rasp, died of a fever and was buried in a pauper's grave in Killeggy Churchyard, Muckross, County Kerry, Ireland. But who was he, Billy, and how did he finish up in Kerry?
Well, he is as odd in his own way as a Baron Munchausen. When Rasp was a young fellow, a teenager, he used to go to the local alehouse where the Baron would be telling his stories. And he was fascinated. Raspberry was a brilliant fellow. He was a professor in Castle University, and he was multi-talented. He wrote many things, even a poetry of Oisin. Anyway, he was also a thief. He stole a lot of gems from the university, and the police were after him, so he hightailed it out of Germany to England. And he was able to bullshit everybody in England to the point where they elected him a member of the Royal Society. And he was really considered a true genius. But when the Royal Society discovered that in fact he was a thief, they got rid of him. So then he went into the mining business, and he enriched a certain mine with falls with copper and so on in Scotland, and that was discovered, so he got fired. So then after that, it was off to Ireland, where they had recently found gold in the Wicklow Mountains. He didn't run it from Wicklow because the Brits wouldn't tolerate this at all. Britain was ruling Ireland, and they wanted the gold. So he finished up in Kerry, where he was looking for copper, didn't get any, instead of that got a fever and died of it, and was buried in a pauper's grave.
Well, Jeremy Brightside lives each role to the fullest, subverting the law as he trails chaos and uncertainty in his wake. Between shows, he conducts a platonic relationship with the Irish landlady, the lovely Mrs. Wattle, from whom he receives encouragement and afternoon tea. Tell me, Billy, where did you come up with the character of Mrs. Wattle, and how important is she in the story? What need does she serve, so to speak?
You need a character. You can't have everybody playing in the same position on a football pitch or on a stage. And Mrs. Wattle is the antithesis of Brightside. She's Mother Courage. She's a no-nonsense Irishwoman for whom life hasn't been a bowl of cherries. And lives on her own in a little old tatty North London flat, and is quite willing to put up with Brightside just to have somebody around the place. And Brightside is slightly exploitative, but it's hard to know whether he's kind of fond of her. So they are quite different. He's given to fanciful thoughts, and she's concerned with just practical things.
Well, the question remains throughout Foolish Notions, is Jeremy Brightside mad, bad, or just has a head full of foolish notions? Hence the title. Well, I heard a report, Billy, that the actor Jack Nicholson was at a golf course clubhouse in Ireland, and he showed a certain interest in playing the part of Jeremy Brightside in Foolish Notions if ever a movie were to come from your novel. Huh?
I don't know whether this is true or not, but a guy gave the novel to Jack Nicholson when Jack Nicholson was in Ireland. And they read a lot of it, and they were talking. A man told me that Jack Nicholson said, this was about 20 years ago, that, God damn it, if that fellow BYRNE could switch it to Times Square and find me something to hang out of, I'd play the goddamn part. Now that's about 25 years ago. Now, and I believe it to be true. If I ever bump into Jack Nicholson, I'll ask him. Or you do if you ever bump into him.
Well, you're a medical doctor yourself, Billy, and a science graduate of University College Dublin. You worked in psychiatry for a number of years before setting up a medical research company on the campus of Trinity College. You are an inventor with a number of medically related patents to your name, and you're married with one daughter. You're passionate about your novel Foolish Notions, Billy, and you'd like to see Foolish Notions staged here in New York. Indeed, that's why you went off and wrote a stage play for Foolish Notions. Tell me, having staged it in Dublin already, what kind of audience reaction are you receiving from Foolish Notions, Billy?
Well, we wanted to see if there was any use at all, and we put it on in one of the smaller theatres, and we got some very good actors, even Nick Dunning, who won some awards, and some very other excellent actors. Anyway, everybody liked it, and they used that theatrical phrase, which was new to me. Somebody described it as it has legs. So I wondered if it had more than just legs. I was delighted to hear that expression. And we decided then, if it failed that test, we were going to just say it was just one of those things, but because it was so well received, in a small way, we decided to give a go, hopefully in, say, New York or London, because the play isn't as parochial as all that. It's not just a local play about Ireland. I mean, Brightside could be Walter Mitty, he could be you, he could be anybody. You know what I mean? There's a bit of the Munchausen in all of us. No, hopefully not too much. So that's why I looked about that. And in fact, I often wonder, why don't you'd make a marvellous bright side. But that's me putting the BYRNE on you, Sean.
Well, I'll tell you, I do have some foolish notions myself, Billy. Well, Foolish Notions has received some great reviews, and you can read them there at the website foolishnotions.com. In fact, there are a whole pile of facilities there on the website. You can read the synopsis, you can read something about Billy. There's reviews there from the Irish Independent, the City Tribune, the Irish Medical News, the Sunday Business Post, the Irish Times, Book Ireland. Tell me, Billy, what one sentiment do you receive more than any others that you get from people who have read Foolish Notions?
Well, sometimes when I'm occasionally in a pub in Dublin, little old ladies sidle up to me, or women as well, or even young ladies, and I think we are off. I'm getting lucky. I think they remonstrate with me. In other words, they give out to me, how dare you do that to Mrs. Wattle? How dare you let that fella? And they have kind of identified with Mrs. Wattle, and yet have a sneaky regard for that picaresque character, Mr. Jeremy Celestine Brightside, or JCB to his friends, of whom he has none. You can see that that's why. Also, one has to have something to be doing now that I'm retired.
Now, Foolish Notions is available to purchase here on the internet, Billy, or you can purchase your copy of Foolish Notions at bookworld.com and foolishnotions.com. You're also on Facebook, and we encourage all our listeners to join the Foolish Notions Facebook page there. And what else is going on with it, Billy?
Well, it's also on Amazon, as far as I know, and on Kindle, and we have a Facebook set up.
Well, you also have a series of recitals airing on the official Foolish Notions Facebook page there, Billy. You are reciting inspirational poems, including one by the great Robert Frost, his famous Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. And we're going to sit back now and enjoy that. This is Billy Byrne.
Stopping by Woods of a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Beautiful altogether. I love that poem. I've always enjoyed a bit of Robert Frost. Now, the late great Derry-born artist Aon O'Tighe, best known for his public sculptures, 30 of which stand across Ireland, and one of which includes the famous Anna Livia, or the floozy in the jacuzzi, as it was endearingly known, sadly passed away Friday, August the 5th, 2011, in Gorey District Hospital, in Gorey, County Wexford. Eamon was 72. He also created the Foolish Notions front cover illustration, Billy. Talk to me a little about your memories of Eamon and his work.
Eamon, marvellous man. First time I ever met Eamon, we were students, and I I did medicine as well as science, but I did science with his brother. And I went down to visit Eamon to give him something, a book or something. And I went into this garret, top flats, it was real kind of La Boheme stuff. And there was Eamon drawing. He was an architecture student. And he was playing on the record, a record of Beethoven's Fifth. I still remember it. And so, kind of like this guy. We went off and had a couple of pints of Guinness. And we became good friends. And how did he finish up doing my cover? Well, I thought, every book should be judged by its cover. And it's quite nonsensical to say, don't judge a book by its cover. If the cover is lousy, don't read it. So I said to Eamon, would you do me a cover of a guy dressed in Elizabethan gear, swinging out of the statue of Eros in Piccadilly Circus? And he did, and I said, how much is that, Eamon? He said, nothing. I said, no, I have to pay you. So I paid him a small few bucks for the job. But I did say one to him, listen, Eamon, would there be any danger you could turn around Eros? He had Eros the other way around, so that you could see his back sides and behind. He said to me, geez, Byrne, you're a terrible man. I put great effort into painting Eros's rear end, Derriere. He was from Derry as well, but anyway. He said, look, I said, Eamon, just do me a favour, turn this SOB around, would you? So he did. And that's how, and I think he did, and then he gave me the charcoal copy of the original, which I have hanging in my study, and he's a marvellous guy and a marvellous polymath. He could do any damn thing.
And he'll be sadly missed. Well, we're delighted for your success here on Radio Irish, Billy, and thank you for dropping by and talking about Foolish Notions.
Well, thank you very much, Sean. And maybe you played a part one day.
Well, that would be an honour and a treat. Foolish Notions there at foolishnotions.com, which I encourage you to purchase and to read. This is Sean McCarthy for Radio Irish.